Joo-hoon stood outside the door, nervous as hell. He realized that he had to find the key first to finally save Johan. He also wanted to understand how these two actors could ever be in a movie together when they could not be put in the same room together. And then he saw a cameraman going up to the second floor. Joo-hoon began to worry that he had heard their conversation and decided to ask him about it. The man replied that he had just brought some medicine. He also asked the protagonist to take them to the actor himself. Joo-hoon then concluded that the cameraman hadn't heard anything. Out loud, he good-naturedly told the young man that the actor had his own medicine. After that, the cameraman did not insist anymore and decided to go on about his business. Joo-hoon finally asked no one to come and disturb Johan, saying that he was feeling very ill. The protagonist was now sure that no one would come to the actor's room again. Finally, Joo-hoon managed to find the right key, and he was even able to open the ill-fated lock, saving the victim, so to speak. When the operation to rescue the actor was almost completed, someone began to break into the room. Inexplicably, the main character, probably because of fright, managed to push Johan. It happened in such a way that he fell to the floor and now looked at the blonde in surprise. As it turned out, their persistent visitor was Eugene. He was not at all embarrassed or surprised. Yoo-hoon tried to apologize to Johan for hitting him. Then he announced that it was time for him to go about his business, but now Eugene was holding him up. The actor emphasized that Joo-hoon should still stay. He said that if he left, he could get into trouble. Johan was lying on the bed in a twisted position and could not believe that the protagonist had hit him. Joo-hoon, meanwhile, felt a terrible mess in his head. Eugene thought that the boy would be better off accepting his help than getting into trouble. He whispered these words in Joo-hoon's ear like a snake, but he could not move. In the end, the boy decided to avoid trouble and hurried out of the room where there were only patients. Finally, he couldn't help but slam the door loudly. Eugene assumed that Joo-hoon would be back soon. Johan, in turn, tried to understand how his friend had been allowed on the set at all. Eugene told Johan that it was because he lacked charisma, which he had plenty of. The guy admitted that he had his own plan for further events, but he didn't say what it was. As night fell, the protagonist was still shocked by the circumstances of the day. That night he was going to sleep alone, and he was very happy about it. Eugene stayed overnight on the couch in Johan's room to look after him and help him if he needed assistance. Then Joo-hoon's mind began to rack with such mischievous thoughts that he regretted ever having started thinking about it. He decided that it would be better for him not to think about anything. But he didn't succeed in thinking about nothing, and a few minutes later he was cursing those stupid idiot actors who had met him on his way. The protagonist did not understand how one of them managed to apologize so strangely to him for hitting him, and the other one hypnotized him, after which he was in a strange mess. He didn't understand why anyone would care about these actors, even if they were talented, good-looking, and well-spoken. As a result, because of all these thoughts and feelings, the protagonist could not close his eyes throughout the night. No sooner had he gone downstairs than he met Eugene, who was unclear what he was doing. He was furious at the actor's behavior until he saw that he was just doing his exercises and the cameraman was filming him. The actor kindly asked the blonde how he slept. Joo-hoon, meanwhile, was trying to catch some kind of peace of mind after all the past experiences and the night vigil and the morning scare. So he had little understanding of reality. It was not over in the kitchen. A few hours later, he was walking down the hall, and he again thought of something indecent being done in the room. When the protagonist decided to be outraged by these actions, he found Eugene taking care of his friend. He was just giving Johan a massage, and the cameraman was filming everything. Joo-hoon referred to the fact that he had the wrong door and wished the actors good luck. When he stepped out into the hallway, he realized that he was slowly going crazy, and his imagination had plunged him to the very bottom of obscenity. Joo-hoon slowly realized that he was turning into a real pervert, and it scared him. Suddenly, the door of the room opened and Johan, who had recovered, appeared. He offered the protagonist a heart-to-heart talk. Joo-hoon wanted to understand why Johan had suddenly changed so much. Even more, he wanted to understand why he was looking at him with such a hostile look. Then Johan changed his face again, and in an elite voice invited the protagonist to walk with him. At first, Joo-hoon thought the actor had gone completely insane, and even recoiled from him. The protagonist tried to find out from Johan why he was doing this, and without waiting for an answer, he declared that he hated him. The actor wanted to know what caused this hatred for him, when he deserved only the opposite. When the guy started telling him how kind, beautiful, rich, Joo-hoon couldn't stand it and just shut him up so he wouldn't have to hear any more of this nonsense. The actor reminded the singer that he had actually pushed him yesterday and he was hurt. Joo-hoon wanted to tell him what he thought of him and why it had happened, but he didn't say anything. He didn't understand how someone with such an angelic face could be such a terrible person and say such nonsense. The actor suggested that the protagonist organize a party to make up and become good friends, so that he would no longer be nervous. Joo-hoon intended to give a negative answer, although he still did not know how to answer in such a way that this actor would finally leave him alone. He even told him in some detail what he expected from this life. Then the protagonist decided to end this heartbreaking conversation and added that he would pretend that he hadn't heard anything today. Johan, meanwhile, thought that this situation was becoming more and more interesting to him. Joo-hoon bumped into Eugene around the corner and asked him if he had heard their conversation. The actor told the boy that he had just come to stop Johan if he started to make a mess. Joo-hoon was not relieved by this confession. He was now determined to end the conversation with the man, even though he had been joking. Eugene complimented the main character by calling him a good guy. Just then, Johan approached them, about to interrupt another heart-to-heart. The protagonist had to separate the two, explaining the limits of what was proper. He asked them not to involve him in any of their games. Johan didn't like this. Eugene was going to play by his own rules, but no one wanted to listen to the blonde. The main character lived to see the night and fell asleep. But soon he woke up with a feeling that something was bothering him. As it turned out, he was tied to the bed with handcuffs. In his attempts to understand what was going on, he discovered two deranged actors who were watching his suffering with amusement. The protagonist tried to explain to these comrades that it was all illegal and they would get in trouble. He also demanded that they let him go. Then Johan told him that he did not have to worry about his life because no one would touch him. Joo-hoon called the actor a liar, and then he saw exactly what abnormal people are capable of. The boy shouted and shouted, but no one listened to him. At one point, Joo-hoon found himself thinking that he was losing his mind. But he could not help himself because his hands were chained. So he just closed his eyes so he wouldn't see anything. When the protagonist asked to be released and left alone, his comrades refused. At the same time, they promised that they would not hurt him and would help him in everything. When Joo-hoon was alone, he thought that he should be angry with his friends, but for some reason he found it hard to do so. As it turned out, it was because they had not caused him any suffering or pain. Still, Joo-hoon felt a sense of shame and a sense of duty. As a result, he told the boys that he had to repay them for their kindness to him. Eugene was glad that Johan was so nice to them, and Johan decided to clarify what it all meant and what he was willing to do for them. As a result, Joo-hoon kicked the actor out of his room, saying that he did not want to talk to him anymore. Johan tried to understand why he was kicking him out. He tried to break in, but the protagonist was not going to let him in. When he came to, he noticed that Eugene was still in the room. Joo-hoon was scared because of this, but he found himself thinking that now his room was quiet. Eugene looked at the boy and thought that he could tell what he was thinking by the look on his face. The actor also saw that he could easily guess Joo-hoon's reaction. Then he decided to calm him down by telling him to lie down and rest. The main character could not even believe that he was finally left alone. Eugene's action had its effect. Joo-hoon now saw him as an intelligent man, and a caring one at that. The only thing he didn't understand was why these people changed from abnormal to normal and vice versa, and instantly. When the boy was alone, he remembered that tomorrow he would have to live through the last night of the end of the first part of the show. For some reason, he doubted that it would be calm. The next morning came and the crew had finished working in the room. There were only a few things left to do. When the protagonist turned around, he saw that the cameraman had stayed in his room. Joo-hoon wanted to know what was going on with this person and why he had stayed. The protagonist was completely at a loss and did not know what to do if this young man asked him an ambiguous question and exposed him to concealment of violations. But the cameraman only warned him that he had to stay for a personal interview and asked him to be ready to answer the questions. The boy was about to leave, but then he lingered at the door. He turned around and looked intently and meaningfully into the eyes of the protagonist, as if he knew everything that was happening in this house. Joo-hoon's biggest fear was that he would be kicked off the show and his band would be finished. When the cameraman left the boy's room, he was met by Johan. He told him that he was trying to take care of the wrong person. The actor asked the cameraman what he was going to do with this information. The man dryly replied that he was not going to share his plan of action with him. The protagonist was now living in a state of fear of the cameraman's actions. He was also worried about the fact that these two not quite normal actors were with him during the entire filming. On the other hand, the protagonist could breathe out, if only for the reason that nothing bad had happened so far. It's worth noting that nothing bad happened even on the last night of the first season of the reality show, when he was alone with Eugene. Thus, the first stage of filming ended, and the group thanked everyone for their fruitful cooperation and left. From then on, Ji-hoon had no idea what role he would play in the second season. His phone hadn't rung for over a week. As it turned out, the main character's role in the reality show was very important to him, so he missed his colleagues. At the same time, he realized that if the actors were silent, then this practice was not that important to them. Ji-hoon was now suffering from the feeling that his head was bursting with too many heavy thoughts. He often recalled how the actors had told him that they had taken care of the problem with the cameraman and he would not bother them again. Only the main character was now concerned about how they had done it and whether it would cause problems in the future. His thoughts were interrupted by the manager, who asked him to come out when he was ready. The boy decided that he would not make such mistakes in his life that would cause him to suffer. As a result, the protagonist was told that if he was going to appear on a reality show often, he should do some kind of advertising to be recognized. As a result, the manager organized a musical performance for the whole group in the middle of the street. The guys performed their repertoire and thanked the audience, which was still very small. Ji-hoon felt a terrible sense of embarrassment about his lack of fans and popularity in general. However, he still hoped that the situation would change when the first episode of the reality show aired and their ratings increased a bit. Even in this small number of people present, he noticed that there was still some excitement. Suddenly, he noticed a young man among the passers-by and found him very interesting. When he took off his mask, Ji-hoon recognized the man as Eugene. Ji-hoon had never expected to see this man. But the actor first thanked the band for playing such a great song. Then he invited the band leader to go out and get something to eat. The group immediately recognized who the person was and that he was a well-known movie and TV star. A singer and an actor were walking to their car, and fans surrounded them and asked the actor to sign an autograph and shake their hands. Eugene thanked the audience and began to refuse the gifts, arguing that he had enough of their attention. The actor himself asked Ji-hoon to hurry up and get in the car. The boy saw all these people running toward them with a special twinkle in their eyes. Ji-hoon continued to think about how even when his band tried to impress their fans, hardly anyone paid attention to them. He came to the conclusion that the top stars live and are perceived in a completely different way. Eugene asked Ji-hoon if he was embarrassed and apologized for the situation. Ji-hoon said that he did not hold a grudge at all. The boy also told the actor that his manager wanted to thank him for all the attention he brought to their band. Ji-hoon then asked the actor what the occasion of his visit was, and even suggested that it was something to do with work. Eugene told him that he had come here solely to see him. The actor wondered if all the people had given the singer these gifts when he saw him holding different things. Ji-hoon replied that they all just grabbed his hands and gave him gifts, and he had no way to refuse them. Eugene offered him a container where he could put it all and throw it away. Only the singer did not understand why he would throw away all these gifts. He thought it was wrong, especially since people had tried and wanted to make him feel good. Eugene emphasized that it was normal to do so. He then asked the boy if he really needed all this. At that moment, Ji-hoon thought that the actor probably always does this with fan gifts. On the other hand, as far as he knew, Eugene had always been polite to fans. Now he saw that it was not as simple as the masses had told him. After this conversation, Eugene asked Ji-hoon what he wanted to eat. Ji-hoon replied that he would not refuse any food, and then the actor invited them to visit him. Ji-hoon was very surprised at the offer because it was getting late. Eugene argued that it would be awkward for them to have dinner in a crowded place because all eyes would be on them. The boy agreed to the proposal, but then for some reason he felt uncomfortable because he did not know how to behave around this person. Ji-hoon always felt a little uncomfortable in his company. Johan, for example, he could read without any problems. Now he realized that this was probably because he could understand Johan's thoughts immediately. The same person was the complete opposite of Johan. Ji-hoon could not understand what this person was thinking and what he wanted. The actor noticed the boy's thoughtfulness and asked him why he was so confused. The boy said that he was just thinking about the interior of his house. The actor then asked how he liked the food. Joo-hoon replied that it was the first time he had ever tasted steak, and he could say that he liked it very much. Meanwhile, Joo-hoon's manager was sending him about the 101st notification that they were now #1 in the search results. The boy told the actor that they were now popular because he had come to hear their band sing. Joo-hoon was very happy about this because he had always dreamed of such fame and had never had it before. The actor was happy to help and told the singer so. He also criticized him for being distracted by his phone so often, when they could have been talking and doing something useful with all that time. The boy realized his mistake and apologized for his behavior. He even turned off his phone, although he wasn't really sure if he should have done so. The actor, meanwhile, announced that he had nothing on his schedule right now, so they could really spend time with interest. He then offered the boy dessert. Of course, Joo-hoon accepted. He had a sweet tooth, as Eugene admitted. Meanwhile, the actor offered him a piece of cake. The boy did not understand why Eugene stayed sitting next to him, because it distracted him from the pleasure of eating the sweet dessert. Nevertheless, he really enjoyed the cake. After dinner, the guy took a shower and went into the living room, where there was a bottle of wine. He felt like drinking alcohol. He wanted to take a few sips, but he could not do it in one sip. When Eugene came into the living room, he saw Joo-hoon well intoxicated. The actor was even surprised that the boy had drunk the whole bottle of wine by himself. But he was already feeling good, and everything around him was beautiful. Then Eugene suggested that the drunken Joo-hoon go on vacation. As Joo-hoon slept, the actor looked at him with the certainty that Johan must have seen them together on the news and was now furious. Johan was indeed sitting in his dressing room, scrolling through the newsfeed and saw the latest news. The actor was very upset. But this is exactly the effect Eugene was expecting. In fact, he was sure that he was going to go crazy over the news. In the morning, they woke up to someone ringing Eugene's doorbell. Joo-hoon noticed that the caller was obviously not in a good mood. Moreover, it was Johan, who wanted to look the two traitors in the eye. He was angry with them for not inviting him to the party. He even started to cry. Johan could not believe that he had not been told about the meeting when he was looking forward to having a nice dinner with them at the end of the day. Now he called Joo-hoon a rascal because he had asked to be invited to such a gathering, and he had ignored him. And he called Eugene a cunning snake who decides what he wants to do and outsmarts everyone in the world. Joo-hoon said in response that he did not accept such accusations against him. He emphasized that he had not made any promises to anyone. Johan began to beg to be hired by his company and was slowly going crazy because he was being rejected. The landlord even had to force him out of the room. Johan was pacified even with a pillow because he was not going to accept being abandoned like that. As a result, Joo-hoon announced that it was time for him to go to work because he had a busy schedule. Johan, out of anger, had the temerity to say that in fact, losers can't have any schedules at all. Eugene was quick to shut him up and told him that he understood his busy schedule so he wouldn't hold it against him. Joo-hoon went to the bathroom to change and promised that maybe they'd have another chance to see each other on the set. When the two actors were alone, Johan started a fight, trying to find out why Eugene had done this to him so cunningly and shamelessly. The landlord told his friend that if he continued to behave like this, he would never succeed. To make his friend laugh even harder, Eugene told him that Joo-hoon had been in a good mood before he came. The boy calmed down, sat down on the bed of the landlord, and asked him how he slept on the bed. Eugene replied that he was fine with it because he likes to get a good night's sleep at least once in a while because he is a normal person. Johan now told the landlord that next time he would organize a party with Joo-hoon and not invite him. He also suggested that the actor then see with whom the singer was more comfortable spending time. Eugene accepted his friend's challenge, although he did not understand why he should waste his life on such things. Johan threateningly warned Eugene not to interfere with him. Eugene said that he would make sure that he did not have any more bad luck. 3 days have passed since then. The day of the joint conference came, but Joo-hoon could not prepare himself mentally for it. In addition, the actors had not been heard from all this time. He was very upset that Eugene hadn't called him and that they hadn't discussed the fight with Johan. During those 3 days, Joo-hoon's head was ready to explode at any moment. He felt very depressed, and even sleeping was no longer a pleasure. Even when he fell asleep, he had all kinds of dreams that kept him awake. As a result, Joo-hoon suffered for 3 days and 3 nights. He was even worried that he was physically ill. The thought of this was already terrifying to Joo-hoon. The 3 hectic days had taken their toll on him, and he did not know how he would recover. Joo-hun assumed that to his friends the whole situation might seem like a mere routine, and they might not even think about it. But the boy was tormented by not knowing the situation. His thoughts even began to be overcome by doubts that they only needed him for some game of theirs. Joo-hun found this strange and wondered why he was the only one thinking about the consequences. Even now, when the conference was about to start, he couldn't even look them in the eye after that quarrel. Moreover, he suspected that these actors would not even care about anything. Then he caught himself wondering why he was even thinking about it. It all seemed like an obsession, and besides, the shooting was about to begin. Suddenly, the manager looked into the car and suggested that he go to a conference. The manager asked the singer to leave the audience impressed and wished him good luck. But Joo-hun doubted that he would be able to do it. He thought that when the camera started filming him, he would forget about everything. Joo-hun hoped to the last that he would be able to calm down. His sad thoughts were interrupted by the greeting of Eugene, who had just come up to him and complimented him on his good looks. Joo-hun couldn't get his thoughts together and became very nervous when he saw the actor. Eugene told the boy that Johan was also here, but he was just sitting in the waiting room. Eugene was happy to see Joo-hun. He even wanted to tease him. Joo-hun went to the waiting room to say hello to Johan. Johan was munching on his favorite snacks and preparing himself mentally for the conference. Johan kindly offered him a chocolate bar, but he refused. Then the actor began to offer cheese balls, cookies, chips, and other candy to get the singer to accept. As a result, the guy said that he could choose any treat of his choice, and he would taste it. Satisfied, Johan now watched Joo-hun eat, and then admitted that he was very cute when he was eating cookies. The boy, of course, found such compliments strange. He also thought that the actor was behaving strangely in general. Even his voice seemed to him to be somewhat contrived. Johan continued to offer Joo-hun treats. He finally announced that he had to go to the restroom. In fact, he ran away from the actor because he felt terribly uncomfortable in his company. Johan, in turn, was upset that he had not been able to establish contact with Joo-hun. The protagonist hid in a restroom stall and now reflected on the fact that these two people were very strange. He felt a terrible sense of shame and didn't even know how he could sit through the conference. As a result, Joo-hun decided that he would just sit there silently and smile for the camera. He even tried to look at himself in the camera of his phone. As a result, he came to the conclusion that he looked terrible and could not calm down. Suddenly, he overheard two visitors to the restroom talking about him. They mentioned the boy who had become a substitute in the cast and thought he was a complete failure. The strangers, the editors, assumed that Joo-hun had a sponsor who was promoting him in his career. The protagonist continued to listen to how he was being discussed and how he was considered very thin compared to the branch. Then they talked about Johan, and then about how his family is trying to curb any paparazzi creeps against their star representative. Joo-hun continued to listen to how he was being watered down and considered an unknown singer who had suddenly risen so quickly and become popular. To them, it was all extremely suspicious. Then there was a noise in the restroom. Joo-hun wondered what was going on. And then he heard other people talking, but this time they were threatening. The editor, who had been talking a lot, was now lying on the floor, listening to the actor's complaints. He tried to throw a threat back that he might end up in the news as a person who likes to beat people. Johan asked in response if celebrities should sit and listen to some idiots create dirty rumors about them out of the blue and put up with it. Joo-hun was surprised to hear this from Johan. The showdown in the restroom continued, and the actor and the reporter verbally attacked each other, trying to find out who was more capable of revenge. Johan suggested that the reporter should test his hypothesis about the well-known life hack, how to quickly climb the career ladder. But then he refused to do so, referring to the reporter's ugliness, which caused another verbal blow to his opponent. The young man called the actor crazy and said that he had never been so offended. The reporter also promised the actor that he would write an unflattering article about him in retaliation. Johan suggested that he shouldn't delay her coming out. The actor even gave him some suggestions for the headline. As a result, he threw his business card in the reporter's face and told him to be prepared for a call from his manager. Eugene then joined the conversation and asked his colleague to stop threatening him. He himself approached the reporter and helped him to stand up, accompanying his action with a statement that his friend had overdone it. The reporter still did not calm down and asked how he could trample on another person. Eugene told the reporter that he would try to convince his friend not to cause him any problems. He also asked not to do anything that would upset them, emphasizing that this way they would settle their score peacefully. The reporter thanked the heavens that there was at least someone sane who agreed to such terms of the conflict. Eugene concluded by saying that we should always remember that even simple words can destroy a person. The actor asked the reporters to watch their words in the presence of other people. He admitted his mistake and apologized. As a result, the paparazzi left the restroom saying that they would meet again at the conference. Johan told Eugene in the end that even though they scared him, he was still bluffing. Eugene also asked his friend to watch himself. He emphasized that it is hard not to get caught up in the gossip when something like this happens. But Johan was not afraid of anything because he knew that his family would always take care of him. Eugene expressed his opinion on this and stated that it was wrong to treat him so softly, even if it was family. He then reminded Johan of the countless problems he had faced simply because he was there for him. They then mentioned the problem reporters and tried to prevent them from attending the conference. Eugene thought that it would not do any good if these media representatives wanted to take revenge and start asking them strange questions. The boys then went to the booth where Juhun was sitting and asked him to open the door for them. He obeyed, and then asked the actors how they knew he was sitting there. But he did not receive an answer to his question. Eugene began to ask Juhun if he was okay and heard an affirmative answer. He also added that he did not take the reporter's words seriously. On the other hand, he also recognized the fact that all these rumors would make their show more popular. Juhun was also a bit happy that the reporters were wrong in their guesses. But Johan still felt insulted and was in a terrible mood. The actor suddenly remembered that it would be good to organize a party and not invite Eugene. Juhun suggested that they talk about it another time and threatened that if he behaved like that, he would forget his duty. The boy then asked the actor if they were doing the right thing by eliminating the reporters. Johan continued to think about his own thoughts and then interrupted the conversation by saying that he was getting on his nerves with all the reporters. Eugene said that he was also getting on his nerves with all these media representatives. But then he turned to the singer and explained that no sponsor would help him if he did not interest the public. The actor explained to the boy that they had deliberately chosen him to be the third in their team to give him a chance to improve. And then Juhun admitted to the others that he was well aware that for them all their communication was just a game. Johan replied that it was actually very difficult for him. When Juhun didn't believe him, the actor added that he was now motivated because of him. Johan began to make some suggestions again, but the singer decided to interrupt his outpouring. As a result, the two who were arguing left. Eugene was left alone, but for some reason he was feeling unhappy. Eventually, the conference ended. Fortunately for the protagonist, it went off without a hitch. The Juhun team and their leader decided to go to a drinking establishment to celebrate their incredible ratings. The guy announced to his friends that he was happy to have such a great opportunity to work together and be creative. Johan sat nearby and secretly watched the singing team rejoice at their success. He wanted to go over to Juhun, but then decided not to disturb them. The actor was constantly being approached by people offering him a drink, but he was sitting alone and wanted to be left alone. At one point, he noticed that Juhun was very drunk. The actor also noticed that he kept talking to his boss. As a result, he decided that it was time to help the boy out and approached the company asking if he could take Juhun. Johan received an affirmative answer. As a result, the boys left the establishment. For some reason, Juhun assumed that they were being called away for work. The actor responded to this remark by saying that they were going to a very nice place. Eugene came to the same place a little later and found out that Juhun and Johan had gone home together a while ago. He immediately thought that the actor must be having a party, but he would not be invited. Eugene now looked at the phone that Juhun had forgotten to bring with him and assumed that he must be very drunk. He even imagined how Johan would gloat about him now and how smug he would walk around with. Johan thought that they used to have a good relationship, but he had noticed more and more, especially lately, that it had deteriorated. Passers-by noticed the actor and even wondered why he was standing alone and so sad. Eugene told his friends that he had just gone out to get some fresh air and wanted to think about something of his own. He eventually returned to his friends and continued to drink with them, although he kept thinking that he was terribly bored. Moreover, he was annoyed that Johan had managed to organize a small party to which he had not been invited. But there was no party, for Juhun was completely drunk and now snored through his two holes, not noticing or hearing anything around him. Johan was even more offended because he had never been ignored like that before. Still, he was glad that Juhun had come with him. So he waited until the boy woke up. When the protagonist spoke, he admitted that he didn't want to stay in the company of Joo-hoon because there were already rumors about them. Joo-hoon explained to the actor why he did not want to give rise to such rumors. He emphasized that it was important for him to participate in the show because it was his only and probably last chance to become popular. Johan listened to the singer and concluded with regret that the reporter had given him a mild scolding. Joo-hoon asked the actor what he was going to do now. Johan replied that he was going to be the guy who would deal with the bad guys if something went wrong. The actor also wanted to let off some steam and cool off a bit. Joo-hoon was left alone with himself and began to think that any rumors are dirty lies. He also decided that he should not take what had happened to heart. The next morning, he heard a sharp knock on the door. His guest was Eugene, who immediately asked him how he had slept. But Joo-hoon was more interested in how he got there. Then he was distracted by the fact that he probably looked too untidy, especially since he had just woken up. The actor asked Joo-hoon for permission to go inside and was granted. The day before, Johan had called Eugene and told him how good and successful their party with Joo-hoon had been. The actor calmly listened to his friend's words and then asked if everything had gone so well that he immediately wanted to brag to him. Eugene asked where they were now and found out that he was actually at home, and Joo-hoon had stayed the night in a hotel. Eugene decided to go there and check on the protagonist. The actor also wanted to know the details of how they spent last night. When Joo-hoon told Eugene that there was no fun, the actor called him a stupid pretender. Joo-hoon asked him in return if he had come here to see him just to make all these claims. It hurt him to hear that he had come here so early for this very reason. Joo-hoon was offended and walked out, finally saying that he didn't want to talk to the actor. Eugene then apologized for his harshness. They were silent for a while, and then the protagonist said in response that it was good that he realized his mistake. He was going to go home anyway, promising that he would not tell anyone about what had happened. The actor still wanted to ask the singer one question he had been wondering about, and he finally decided to do so. He explained to the singer that his pride had been hurt and that he needed to know all the details of his friendship with the other actor. Joo-hoon asked him not to ask such questions in the future and was about to leave. Eugene stopped him and asked him to tell him what he needed to change and how he could improve himself. Joo-hoon was already tired of the whole conversation, so he just turned around and walked away. The guy called the actor crazy. Eugene was left suffering in the room, not knowing how to fix this situation that had arisen out of nothing. He was also upset that he had spent his whole morning listening to all these terrible conversations. He could not believe that his friend had deceived him. Eugene decided to take revenge on the sly man and sent him a cryptic message to make him think about his behavior. Johan was very upset because he had accused him of lying, but then he admitted that he had lied. Johan finished reading his friend's message and realized that his friend was just trying to prove something to someone else. He was not alone, so he did not understand why his friend was laughing at him. Then he replied that he could not defeat Eugene. The friend added salt to his words by saying that he had already told him this more than once. Speaking about Joo-hoon's popularity, we can safely say that Eugene's visit to his street performances and the conference made him quite popular among search queries. Many people learned about him even before the premiere of the main show. Despite being a background contestant, he was now even invited to the studios. The host started asking the guest about his participation in a reality show with famous actors. She was interested in the rising star's impressions of participating in the show. Joo-hoon replied that he was very nervous before the filming, because it was his first experience in such a show, and then added that both actors he worked with were just great. The interviewer started to ask him about a recent visit of one of the actors to his street performance. Joo-hoon confirmed that it was indeed true and added that he himself was shocked to see Eugene among the audience. After the show, he was worried that he might have made a mistake in his answers. He admitted to the manager that he was very scared to participate in such a program, but the manager praised him for doing a very good job. He was also happy about the reputation that their group now had, especially the top ratings. The manager believed that this was the result of working with celebrities. The man also asked Joo-hoon not to spoil the relationship with the actors. He even suggested the possibility that with such success, he might be cast in a role in the series with them. The manager believed that this reality show he was starring in was a great opportunity to advance his career and asked him to follow his advice. He also asked him why Eugene came to his show. But Joo-hoon didn't want to answer this question because he didn't want to think about the real attitude of this person towards him. The manager explained to Joo-hoon that this is how it works. It looks like one of the bigger stars is introducing a newcomer to show business, and the newcomer gets screen time and public recognition. The manager again asked the boy to follow his instructions, reminding him that it was all just a simple, straightforward business. The man also reminded the band leader to remember to make sure he had some stories to tell on the next TV show. The manager told the young man that he had to fight for his place in the sun, even if he had to do something not very nice. Joo-hoon agreed with his arguments and agreed to do anything. Eugene was an unwitting witness to this richly informative conversation. He concluded that the protagonist was only pretending to be innocent and was simply using his fame for his own purposes. He was frankly unpleasant to hear this. He generally believed that it was abnormal to use each other for selfish purposes. Joo-hoon was sitting at home and playing a tune. It was a new song, and he didn't know if it was good enough to please his audience. Suddenly, he had the idea to find out what kind of music Eugene and Joo-hoon liked. He decided to use his art to make friends with these actors. He was about to write them a message, but then he wondered if he should do so. He assumed that these two might have completely different interests and might not even like his music at all. Joo-hoon now wondered how he could have gotten to this point when he had just wanted to get along with these actors. He also did not understand why it was necessary to get into quarrels and fights within their group. Joo-hoon was well aware that he was nothing compared to these stars. Besides, he saw no reason for them to befriend him at all. The protagonist thought that it was easy enough for him to understand Johan and predict his behavior. With Eugene, it was exactly the opposite, because he was not particularly interested in anything, although at times he was good in communication and even somewhat caring. The thing that put him off the most was that he sometimes acted like a madman and was often cold to him. Again, Joo-hoon recalled how Eugene came to his concert, although he had previously been reluctant to contact him even on the phone. At that moment, it seemed to him that this person was showing him attention and care, but then he remembered how after a couple of hours, he was a completely different person who didn't care about anything or anyone. Suddenly, his phone rang, and he thought that this person had never called him before. Now, Joo-hoon and Eugene began to record a story in which they said that they had come to their house a little early to surprise Johan for his birthday. Joo-hoon told the audience that they hadn't started filming the sequel to their reality show yet, but that they were going to decorate the living room today. It was just the two of them in the house, and Joo-hoon sincerely hoped that nothing bad would happen to him. The boys went to work and filmed what they were doing. The main character blew up so many balloons that he felt sick. He fell to the floor and asked the actor if he needed to decorate the room in any other way and heard a negative answer. And then Eugene offered to talk.